Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody clap and sing. सब लोग तालियां Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. गाइए सब गाइए Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining on this auspicious day of Nirjala Kadashi. And it's very auspicious and very happy occasion spiritually, maybe not materially, if you need to drink water and have something to eat, but spiritually it's very, very rewarding. So if you're keeping Nirjala Kadashi, Hare Krishna to you. Okay, we'll make a start on Srimad Bhagavatam and attentive chanting. And today we're talking about the explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila. So Lord Kapila is still explaining to his mom, Devahuti, about Sankhya philosophy, and he's covered a wide topic. He's spoken about material energy. He's talking about difference between matter and spirit, and about spiritual life. He's talking about devotional service. So we'll just continue from here. And it's Canto 3, 3.29. So Devuti inquiring, first of all, my dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. Because that is the highest position, devotional service, especially in the Kali Yuga. That is the highest position to be in. So Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mental speculation. But of course, Bhakti Yoga with no philosophical basis is more or less sentiment. So we need philosophy and we need devotional service, both hand in hand, going together. Some consider themselves intellectually advanced and simply speculate and meditate, and others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis for their propositions. Neither of these can achieve the highest goal of life, or if they do, it will take them many, many years. So Vedic literature therefore suggests that there are three elements, namely the Supreme Lord, the living entity, which is us, and the relationship, which is eternal. And that the goal of life is to follow the principles of bhakti or devotional service and ultimately attain to the planet of the Supreme Lord in full devotion and love as an eternal servitor of the Lord. So which means that you might become really good at chanting or hearing, but the service does not stop there. You have to please the Lord in other ways as well. If you serve him, serve the Lord and please him as much as you can, which means that you don't just sit there one place and chant all day long. It's not about that. It's about serving the Lord, doing other services as well. Very important. Let's do a prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langyate Gurim. Yat Kirpatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Deen Taranam Pramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tassat. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatojayam Udiriyat. Nasta Presha Vadareshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Neshtaki. So Devuti continued, my dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for people in general, the continual process of birth and death. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. So people who have no knowledge of this material world, God, and their actual intimate relationship with him are actually going to the dark region of material existence in the name of progress in the material advancement of civilization. So they're very intelligent people, very clever people, with lots of qualifications, but they know nothing about our real knowledge, our relationship with God. To enter the darkest region of material existence means to enter into species of life other than human species. Ignorant men do not know that after this life, they are completely under the grip of material nature and will be offered a life which may not be very congenial. So you might think that you have achieved a lot of things, you have accumulated a lot of assets, and you have a great family. But if you haven't acquired any spiritual knowledge or done any spiritual service, then according to your mentality, you may end up in a different species of life in the next, when you take birth, in your next birth. Ignorant men don't know that of this life, they are completely under the grip of material nature and will be offered a life which may not be very congenial. This continual change of bodies in birth and death is called samsara. Devahuti requests her glorious son, Kapil Muni, to explain about this continued journey to impress upon the conditioned souls that they are undergoing a path of degradation by not understanding the path of bhakti yoga, devotion service. So Devahuti is not only asking for herself, she's asking for all mankind. How can they be helped? Please, Lord, now that you're here in the material world, please save everyone, not just me, please save everyone. Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. So however ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. The body is born at a certain time, and immediately the influence of time acts upon it. From the date of the birth of the body, the influence of death is also acting. So it's just this is thought. It's like when we buy something, it always has an expiry date on it, doesn't it? Or it says used by this date or expiry date. I guess we are no different. When we are born, we come with the expiry date. It's already there, decided, this is your expiry date. And maybe we should say, achieve Krishna consciousness by this date. That's why we take birth. We have this much time, and we should achieve Krishna consciousness before we leave. That should be the date on our body. And in fact, next week, we'll be discussing that. We'll talk more about time next week. Now, if a man is 30 or 50 years old, then the influence of time has already devoured 30 or 50 years of the duration of his life. So the older we're getting, the less time we have remaining to achieve Krishna consciousness. So those of us who came late in Krishna consciousness, as we were discussing last week, well, it doesn't mean that it's too late. It just means we have to work a little bit harder. We have to try a little bit harder. We have to spend a bit more time on this, because we have to achieve in our limited time what somebody else might have had the whole lifetime to achieve. But it's not impossible. Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider the age and circumstances, concern themselves with the influence of time, and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or an animal species. Generally, people are attached to sense enjoyment and so aspire for life on the heavenly planets. Therefore, they engage themselves in charitable or other pious activities. But actually, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, one cannot get relief from the chain of birth and death, even if he goes to the highest planet, which is Brahmaloka. Because the influence of time is present everywhere within this material world. In the spiritual world, however, the time factor has no influence. So that is different. So Devahuti continues to say, my dear Lord, you are just like the sun, for you illuminate the darkness of the conditioned life of the living entities, because their eyes of knowledge are not open. They are sleeping eternally in that darkness without your shelter. And therefore, they are falsely engaged by the actions and reactions of their material activities, and they appear to be very fatigued. It appears that Srimati Devahuti, the glorious mother of Lord Kapil Dev, is very compassionate for the regrettable condition of people in general, who, not knowing the goal of life, are sleeping in the darkness of illusion. It is the general feeling of the Vaishnav or devotee of the Lord that he should awaken them. Similarly, Devahuti is requesting her glorious son to illuminate the lives of the conditioned souls so that their most regrettable conditioned life may be ended. The Lord is described herein as Yoga Bhaskar, the son of the system of all yoga. Devahuti has already requested the glorious son to describe Bhakti Yoga, and the Lord has described Bhakti Yoga as the ultimate yoga system. So Bhakti Yoga is sun-like illumination for delivering the conditioned souls, whose general condition is described here. They have no eyes to see their own interest. They don't know that the goal of life is not to increase the material necessities of existence, because the body will not exist more than a few years. The living beings are eternal and they have their eternal need. If one engages only in caring for the necessities of the body, not caring for the eternal necessities of life, then he is part of a civilization whose advancement puts the living entities in the dark region of ignorance. Sleeping in the darkest region, one doesn't get any refreshment, but rather gradually becomes fatigued. He invents many processes to adjust this fatigue condition, but he fails and thus remains confused. The only path for mitigating his fatigue in the struggle for existence is the path of devotional service or the path of Krishna consciousness. So, we are out there trying to find happiness in temporary things, and we're always disappointed because that's not where our happiness lies. Our happiness lies in spiritual, because we are spiritual, and our happiness lies in spirituality. But it takes time, that's for sure. Shri Maitri said, "O best among the Kurus, the great sage Kapil." So now this is talking about Shri Sage Maitreya talking to Vidu, because there's so many different conversations going on. Everybody's inquiring. That's what we should be doing, inquiring. Shri Maitreya said, "O best amongst the Kurus, the great sage Kapila, moved by great compassion and pleased by the words of his glorious mother, spoke as follows." Now, Lord Kapila is going to respond to his mother's questioning. Lord Kapila was very satisfied by the request of his glorious mother, because she was thinking not only in terms of her personal salvation, but in terms of all the fallen conditioned souls. The Lord is always compassionate towards the fallen souls of this material world. And therefore he comes himself, so sends his confidential servants to deliver them. Since he is perpetually compassionate towards them, if some of his devotees also become compassionate towards them, he's very pleased with the devotees. So since the Lord comes anyway, not for just one person, he comes for everyone. But he is happy when we are taking interest and we are thinking like he's thinking. He's happy with that. Oh, that's great, because they understand where I'm coming from here. That they are not being selfish. They want to help other people as well. And they want to help me in my mission. So Krishna is happy with that. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that persons who are trying to elevate the condition of the fallen souls by preaching the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, namely full surrender onto the person of Godhead, are very dear to him. Thus, when the Lord saw that his beloved mother was very compassionate towards the fallen souls, he was pleased and he became compassionate towards her. So if the Lord sees that we are showing compassion to other people, he naturally shows compassion to us in the same way and in the same amount, in the same caliber, capacity. So Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, "O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is one, because in pure devotional service, there is no demand from the devotee to be fulfilled by the Lord. But generally, people take to devotional service with a purpose. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, people who are not purified take to devotional service with 4 purposes. A person who is distressed because of material conditions becomes a devotee of the Lord and approaches the Lord for mitigation of his distress. This is the Chaturbuddha. A person in need of money approaches the Lord to ask for some improvement in his monetary condition. Others who are not in distress or need of monetary assistance are seeking for knowledge in order to understand the absolute truth, also take to devotional service, and they inquire into the nature of the Supreme Lord. This is very nicely described in Bhagavad Gita 7.16. Actually, the path of devotional service is one without a second. But according to the devotee's condition, devotional service appears in multifarious varieties, as will be nicely explained in the following verses. So a lot of people go in worship Krishna or even demigods for their own benefits. First of all, Krishna, we should be worshiping Krishna according to Bhagavad Gita, and then we should be worshiping him to please him, not for our own benefits. That is second class worship. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separatist, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Now, Lord Kapila has explained different kinds of devotional service. So this is the mode of darkness. It has already been stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, that the highest, most glorious religion is the attainment of causeless, unmotivated devotional service. In pure devotional service, the only motive should be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is not actually a motive. That is the pure condition of the living entity. So if we are pleased by pleasing the Lord, that is not sense gratification. In other words, that is our duty, so to speak. So in the conditioned stage, when one engages in devotional service, he should follow the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master in full surrender. The spiritual master is the manifested representation of the Supreme Lord because he receives and presents the instructions of the Lord. So if we don't know what to do, then we ask the spiritual master, because the spiritual master has already heard it from, or he understands what the Lord requires, as they are by disciplic succession. It is described in Bhagavad Gita that the teachings therein should be received by disciplic succession, otherwise there is adulteration. Because if we just mental speculating, then there is no guarantee that will be right. Everybody will have their own version of how to serve. But if you come in the disciplic succession, straight from Krishna to Brahma and so on, Narmani, then we're on the right track, and we're not just assuming things, which a lot of us, we have a habit of making assumptions. It's human nature to make assumptions. So it's best to follow the scriptures and the advice of the spiritual master. If one has a motive of personal gratification, his devotional services manifest differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, and angry, and his interests are separate from the Lord's, because then that is not devotional service. The worship of the deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence. So if that's what you're looking for, then that's devotional service in the mode of passion. The word separatist must be understood carefully. The Sanskrit words in this connection are Binadrik and Pratik Bhava. So a separatist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees, or devotees in the modes of passion and ignorance, think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. This is the separatist mentality. Actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee should not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme. That is oneness. When the devotee has an interest or will different from the interest of the Supreme Lord, his mentality is that of a separatist. When the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interest of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. So if we are serving for our own benefit, then that is not pure devotional service. So Kapil Muni is explaining different kinds of devotional service, and he's saying that although it may look like you're doing devotional service, but what is your motive behind it? What are you looking for? What agenda do you have? Because that is not real. You're doing for your own benefit, so that's not devotional service. There is no devotion. You just you want something in return. So that's not devotion. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personal Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inabilities of fruity activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. So the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, along with the Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanprasthas, and Sannyasis, are the members of the 8 divisions of Varnas and Ashrams. And they have their respective duties to perform for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When such activities are performed and the results are offered to the Supreme Lord, they are called Karam Arpanam, duties performed for the satisfaction of the Lord. If there is any inability or fault, it is atoned for by this offering process. But if this offering process in the mode of goodness rather than in pure devotion, then the interest is, again, is different. The 4 ashrams and the 4 varnas act for some benefit in accordance with their personal interest. Therefore, such activities are in the mode of goodness. They cannot be counted in the category of pure devotion. So this is interesting that even if you do devotion service in the mode of goodness, it's still not pure devotion service. Pure devotion service, as described by Rupa Goswami, is free from all material desires. Anya bilashita shunyam. Thus, there should be no personal or material desires. That's the basis. There can be no excuse for personal or material interest. Devotional activity should be transcendental to fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation. Pure devotional service is transcendental to all material qualities. Devotional service in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness can be divided into 81 categories. There are different devotional services, activities such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering prayer, rendering service, and surrendering everything. And each of them can be divided into 3 qualitative categories. There is hearing in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, and in the mode of goodness. Similarly, there is chanting in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. So amazing. One has to transcend all such mixed materialistic devotional service in order to reach the standard of pure devotional service as explained. So this is, it makes it look very difficult. That's how do we achieve, we have 9 types of devotional service, and then each service falls into 3 categories, and those 3 categories again probably fall into 3 categories because every mode has its own 3 categories. This is why I say there's 81 categories, 27 times 3. So it seems like a lot of hard work, and we may get put off by this, that is it worth even trying, because it just seems like an impossible task. What should we do? Well, again, it comes back to the fact that we can only desire and endeavor. When Krishna sees our sincerity, he will give us his blessing. And it's only when Krishna, he's pleased by our endeavor. That's the main thing. And when he's pleased, we will get his blessing and we can achieve the results. Without his blessing, we cannot achieve the results. His mercy comes when he sees that, yes, we are seriously trying, then he will help us. It's like a child trying to walk. When the parent sees that he's very, he's desperately trying to walk, the parent lends a hand and lets and the child thinks, now I'm walking by myself, but it's the hand of the father or the mother that is helping the child walking. So it's like that we don't have the strength, and you can see it's quite difficult to achieve pure devotional service. We don't have the strength to do that, but Krishna's hand and his arrangement can help us to achieve that stage. So that is the reading for today. So thank you so much all for joining. This is my father-in-law ji, Rukmani Mataji, Ishani Mataji, Madhav Sundar Prabhu. Hope you're feeling well. Nita Mataji, Partha Prabhu, Parveen Mataji, Prem Prakash Prabhu, Rai Kanu Mataji, and Sarvashriya Mataji. Thank you all for. Venkat Prabhu also. And I think Venkat Prabhu was so earlier on. He was there. And Swapam Prabhu. Thank you all for joining. Please help me with this. Let's share some realizations and something you would like to add, or which part you like best, or maybe explain something. Love to hear from you. And we'll start from the top as always. Rukmani Mataji, please, would you like to contribute in some way on this? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very, very difficult to do all this you said. But the easiest way Prabhupada has chosen. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So in that one sentence, everything we can understand. Not depending upon any other activities. And it's a very difficult task for us by the arrangement of Krishna to live in this material world and to be away from the materialist. It's our big test. So Prabhupada has done this chanting method. So I love that. Only chant Hare Krishna and be happy and stay away from the materialist world. So nothing we can do. That's it, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother. Yeah, chant. That is the first thing we got to do. That's something that we can't avoid. Chanting is a must. We must chant. But then, same time, according to our capacity, we must try and do other services. We have deities at home. We serve them. The deities at home do not replace temple deities, but they are an extension of our temple deities. While we're not in the temple, we can serve the deities at home, and we try and please them. Thank you, Mother. Okay, Partha Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I think I saw a message. Partha Prabhu is not able to. Prabhu is good to speak.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, that's a very nice class to hear on the Nirjala Ekadashi especially. So
absolutely good, very good point, Prabhu.
Yeah, I mean, when you said like in the mode of goodness, it's not sufficient, and we are struggling here to get into mode of goodness first of all. So it's very, very difficult, as Mataji is also saying. But I was just listening to like Brahma Samhita, one of the purport, Prabhuji, like where it is mentioned that if you ask how will be the preservation and conduct of worldly affairs be feasible if one is continuously engaged in endeavor of realization of bhakti. So I think if you are spending whole time in the realization of bhakti, then how you will be actually doing your worldly affairs. And then in the next line of the purport, Prabhupada write that In order to strike at the root of this misgiving, the Supreme Lord says, this world subsists by the constant performance of certain activities. Fill all these activities with the meditation of me. This will destroy the quality that makes those activities appear as acts done by you. They will then be of the nature of my service, bhakti. So I think that's where like you do all the activities, but keeping Krishna in center. That's the only thing we can perform. That's it. That's all, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And you can keep Krishna in the center by giving the results of your activities. That's how you would. So whatever you're doing, you offer a portion of that result to the Lord. Whether if you are earning money, then you offer a percentage of that you can afford, you can offer that. If you're earning fame, then you use your fame for Krishna consciousness. If you're earning knowledge, then you offer some of your knowledge for Krishna consciousness. You say, if you're doing accounts or some other, you're a writer or you're a painter, you can do some service for. So that this is how you bring Krishna in the center of your service, that you can offer your qualities, the fruits of your activities onto the Lord. So that way, at the same time, when you are serving, you think that this is your duty that Krishna has given you, and that's your psychophysical nature. You're working according to that. So yeah, you're putting Krishna in the center by thinking that you're serving Krishna by doing this service. Does that make sense, Prabhu?
Yeah, very nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much for that. That's nice.
Thank you. Okay, who else we have? Prem Prakash, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Janma Pranam. Prabhuji, sorry, I was not that attentive during the class, but
Prabhu, that's fine. Whatever you can talk about the pure devotional service, and Prabhu mentioned about keeping Krishna in the center, and in the reading there was about different types of devotion. Although we're doing devotion service, but if we have different agendas, then the devotion service falls into different categories. It's not. We have to aim for pure devotion service, not in the mode of passion or even in the mode of goodness. That's the topic.
I was just listening a bit and bit, and then I was trying to frame my answer, but then I was just trying to see that we are not actually at the level of like whatever we do, we are not at the level to not have aspiration for anything material. Maximum we can do while we are doing devotional service, we don't aspire for anything else or material gain out of it. But as soon as we are coming out of the service, like from the temple service or any kind of service, like even after this class, then we have a business to run, when we have job to run, and then we can't actually run a job or do a business entirely away from a desire. I mean, we have some goals to achieve, and those goals are definitely not spiritual. But then we don't come into that category where we actually come out of everything and then do devotional service. So that's where I think Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj also mentioned about Yukta Virag, and Guru and Srila Prabhupada also highlighted the Yukta Virag is that whatever we do, let us do passionately with full attention. And then when we get results, then give it to temple or engage that into devotional service. So looking at the material nature, it's not actually possible to come out of that situation. But as long as that we understand that we are not part of this situation, but we are made to do this situation under certain some circumstances. So and the results what we achieve does belongs to Krishna, and we give it to Krishna at the end of it, keeping whatever is necessary for us, or having a plans which might actually lead to Krishna consciousness. Or even if we want to purchase a better house, better car, we engage that with a mood that will engage that in Krishna service. So we can dovetail towards it, but with the current situation that we have chosen to live in this world, in this country, the way we have chosen lifestyle, it's not possible to have complete renunciation, or basically have a pure bhav for devotional service, as a pure devotional service, for us at least in Grihastha, the way we are engaging in our day-to-day life. It might be possible for brahmachari and brahmacharis and maharajas and ISKCON, but we have to understand that we have to serve in full of our capacity, understanding that we are not part of the situation, and engage whatever service we can do, and just expect the mercy, because that's what we are put into the situation. And it's obvious that we can't really come out of our responsibilities and just engage in rest of the things. When Prabhupada was in family life, he was devoted to his family. He actually carried out his family duties very well. Even if when material desires were coming from his family, like buying a car, buying a big house, he actually did it. I mean, that's a desire his family is coming up, so he's doing it. But he's still he's still not coming from that point that he has to cultivate the pure devotion service. That's still center of his mindset. But as for fulfilling desires of people around you, it's okay, as long as they are still part of Krishna conscious development in the long run. That brings people into Krishna. When we distribute prasadam, we don't see that obviously people will not understand that, but it's one step towards Krishna consciousness. So we can see that we are taking steps one by one, maybe baby steps, small steps, but that's where we have to understand our position and place ourselves and move forward. That's my position. I don't think so I can take a big leap, Prabhuji, but that's what I can say. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there is more pressure on the brahmacharis and in the sannyas ashram. There is more pressure in the grihastha. We have our family pressure as well to take care of. So what we do, I mean, what I've also understood is that this is why we do deity service in the house in the morning, and we do a chanting in the morning, because we try and spiritualize our consciousness, and we all have to go to work to earn money, pay the bills, and it's our duty to look after the brahmacharis and the sannyasis, because they don't earn, so we have to contribute towards them. So we go to work after doing our spiritual activities in the morning, and we work with that spiritual consciousness as much as possible. We use that spiritual consciousness which is there in the background, and we work within that. And also because we are devotees, we try to have at least some kind of decorum and mentality and behavior that we don't cheat people, and we don't use foul language, etc., etc. And we set a good example as a devotee, and that is also part of the Krishna consciousness, that we stay within our limits of we are following, we are practicing devotee, so we stay within that. So that again, we are doing, that is part of our Krishna consciousness. And this is why I try to practice as much as I can. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, and Rai Kanumataji, would you like to make contribution? Okay, Sarveshya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everybody. We have to follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, and follow the devotees in Sri Bhagavatam, and then like Kapila Muni. And it's out of 9 devotional service, there's one devotional service that's Samran. That means you have to think of Krishna. And to think of Krishna, that means meditate on Krishna, meditate on his activities and his activities in Vaikuntha planet and what he done in this earthly planet, just to purify the mind. And then Kapil Muni gives the yoga system. And all the yogas are done to think of Krishna or to control the mind and to purify the mind. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, be a yogi. And then he tells how to be a yogi who always thinks about Krishna, his activities, what he does. And then he emphasized on the prescribed duties that the caste system he made, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The caste system are made according to the 3 modes of material nature, but they can all worship and meditate on Krishna, do devotional service to Krishna, whichever caste they belong, but they're gonna reach the supreme destination. And in the somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, I don't know which chapter, but so Father, in his but he says like a tortoise, they lay the eggs on the land, but they meditate in water, and then the eggs are hatched. So we are on the planet Earth, and Krishna is in Vaikuntha. I mean, he's providing, but we think that life is far away. But we can meditate on Vaikuntha planet and the activities and all the devotees anyway. So just like tortoise, they meditate, but we can still meditate and on Krishna. And of all the devotional service, Krishna emphasizes in Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is the top. If you want to go to Krishna, you have to do devotional service. The other devotional service, I mean, the other yoga system like Karam yoga, Dhyan yoga, it will take some time. You will reach there, it will take time, like climbing the stairs, but it will take longer. But if you take a lift, you will go straight away. So that's how it's, and you can do various ways, not the one way you can hear, you can think, you can, and any 9 out of any devotional service. But the top one is here about Krishna. And if you want to know about Krishna, you have to hear. That's how you will know Krishna. So that was Kapil Muni saying to Devaki mother to try to think of Krishna. Nobody surpassed him. He's the personality of Godhead. So we should. He's telling the devotee, but we should. It is for us, so we can know what to do in our life, and that our goal is to reach to our home, our where we belong. We don't belong this earthly planet, but Krishna gives us chance again and again to go and serve me and come back to your own home. But we like children. Some children, they don't listen to the parents. They tell again and again. We are the same. Some can do, some can't do. Everybody is not the same. Everybody differs. So we try to do devotional service. That's the only way we can reach Krishna. Only through devotional service. Nothing else. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mother. Yeah, absolutely. So this is why knowledge is very important, that we must know what our destination is. and we act accordingly on that, because as mentioned, that we do have very limited time and we can't really afford to make mistakes. It's like being in an exam. This is examination or preparation for the examination. So we have very limited time and we cannot be making mistakes. We have to get it right, and we have to understand that whatever we're doing is the right, we're going the right direction. There's so many ways you can look at it. You can look at it, the fact that, we are on the highway and we're going in a particular direction. We have to know that we are going in the right direction. Otherwise, we're going away from our destination, then it's even more difficult to get back to a destination. So we have to make sure that we are going in the right direction. That can only come through the bona fide knowledge when we receive it. Thank you so much. I'd like to do a couple of rounds if we can fit them in somehow. I don't know. The time is running away from us, and it is all good because this time has been utilized in the service of the Lord. So it's okay. Mataji Subhashimali will have to start the first round and Rukmini Mataji second round. But I want to do 2 rounds today because it's Nirjala Kadashi. It's going to be demanding without water. But if you can, please chant. If not, let me know. Hare Krishna. Sureshi Mataji.